English translation 390th contact. Thursday, 26th May, 2005, 22:43 hours.
Salome to greet you, Ptaah. Good that you got here a little early.
Be greeted as well, Edward. We agreed I would come a little earlier so we still have time to play chess.
Yes, that is what we agreed. Today is also the last Thursday with the corrections, because we have to postpone them to the afternoon of Saturday, because Bernadette is working as a weekly resident in the canton of Solothurn from Monday 30th May and is only here for the weekend.
Our new time will be from 13:30 hours to 15:30 HRs, which also means that Florena, Njana, and I will again take turns doing the correction work with you.
Yes, we have discussed that. But now, I would like to come straight to the predictions. After reconsideration, I think we should limit the predictions to such an extent that only events, etc. are brought up, which are really extraordinary. This will relieve you of the burden, and you will no longer have to worry about general things that happen all the time. As you once said, in your own interest you do not try to make predictions in general terms, but only for great, extraordinary things. If in the future you only tell me such things, then I think that is quite enough. If you or your representatives want to tell me such extraordinary things that can be mentioned, that would be acceptable. General predictions are of no use, as we have found out all these years since our contacts. But special extraordinary things might be information in the form of predictions, which should be recorded as a time picture in the contact reports. In this respect, I am thinking, for example, of the EU Constitution, which is to be ratified by the EU countries in the near future.
I can agree with your idea, therefore we want to keep it accordingly, which actually saves us a lot of work. Concerning the EU Constitution, this is indeed an extraordinary thing as you call it. It has to be said that it will be rejected. France will be in the first place in this respect, because the rationality of the majority of the people will prevail, because they are opposed to the subjugating machinations of the EU. This fact of opposition to the EU by the majority of the people will, however, be slanderously interpreted by the EU supporters, antagonists, and know-it-alls to the effect that the people did not vote against the EU, but against the policy of the French government by rejecting the Constitution. This is not true, however, because those who are rejecting the EU Constitution are anti-EU for good reasons, which is why they will oppose the Constitution. France's action in this sense will have consequences, after which the Netherlands will follow suit and give the EU another setback. By rejecting the Constitution, the European Union is suffering a very bitter, even a huge setback, which will have unpleasant consequences for the EU.
At the 250th official contact conversation on Wednesday, the 26th of October 1994, we talked about homeopathy, and we had a conversation in which I said the following, which I will read here.
Note: new description according to the contact conversation on 18th of June 2005.
We have already talked together about homeopathy and Bach flower products, and you explained that they are not applicable for curing diseases, because the most different diseases cannot be cured with homeopathic remedies and Bach flower products. However, this also applies to medicines of modern orthodox medicine, etc., because the most diverse diseases cannot be cured with such medicines. One must not only think of cancer, but also of many other diseases, especially those of which little or nothing is known in medical science. Homeopathic remedies and Bach flower products, I remember your words, are so far good and right, if they contain sufficient quantities of the relevant active ingredients to be used in diseases that can be influenced benignly by these remedies. Otherwise, they are to be rejected as humbug, just as conventional medicines of orthodox medicine, if they are unsuitable or even dangerous for the corresponding diseases. The actual homeopathy and the Bach flower therapy are basically alleged healing methods in which the diseases are treated with high dilutions. As a result of the effect, phenomena are supposed to be produced, which first of all intensify the symptoms of the illness. If sick humans also take such remedies, they are supposed to be attacked first by the symptoms of the disease against which the remedy is supposed to be effective. It is therefore possible that sick humans show increased symptoms after taking the remedy and, so to speak, are heading for a climax. Homeopathic remedies and Bach flower remedies cannot be regarded as actual active ingredient medicines, because they are absolutely useless in this sense, and therefore as dilutions, as you say. Nevertheless, the active substances as such, which are used for homeopathy and Bach flower therapy, are effective if they are not diluted.
A distinction must be made between remedies that consist of pure active ingredients or of dilutions. Methods with pure active substances fulfill the purpose, but dilutions are useless and ineffective. The lowest permissible dilution is that the remedy is taken with some liquid. This applies to all healing agents that are extracted as essence from plants, crystals, quartzes, salts, minerals, or precious stones, etc., although in this respect many substances and possibilities are still unknown to earthly medicine. With regard to Bach flower products and homeopathy, even low dilutions have very little or no healing effect. All active substances of all kinds contain information that becomes effective when the medication is taken, so that not only the active substance alone is important for healing, but also its information. Thus, every active ingredient, whether toxic or non-toxic, whether soft, hard, liquid, gaseous, or crystalline, etc., has its information through which a disease is combated. But this has nothing to do with homeopathy or Bach flower therapy. An active substance molecule is bundled with countless other active substance molecules, and each of them carries certain information within itself, which is impulsively delivered to the sick body and brings healing to it. This is the case with both natural and conventional medicine remedies. So the active ingredients of all substances, elements, matter, and substances of all kinds are information carriers in infinite numbers. That is, each molecule of active substances is, as already explained, bundled with innumerable other molecules of active substances, whereby each of them, according to its form and type, carries very specific information and radiates or emits it continuously. As you have described in your book, every tiny particle and molecule sends out its own information and signals and impulses, which buzz around in the universe at faster than light speed and hit all other innumerable particles and molecules, etc., whereby a certain understanding and communication comes about, which connects everything in the universe with each other. The active ingredients of the medicines, whether in the form of homeopathy, Bach flower theory, orthodox medicine or chemistry, etc., impulsively radiate their type of information in their form, which becomes effective against the corresponding diseases, attacking and destroying the pathogens. If medical agents are introduced in a highly diluted form into carrier fluids, they lose their effectiveness, depending on the degree of dilution. The more comprehensive the carrier fluid is compared to the active ingredient, the more impossible it becomes to combat pathogens. Regarding homeopathy is yet to be said. This term comes from the Greek language homoiopates and means in a similar state, or feeling similar. Homeopathy is a healing method which, in the treatment of diseases, does not use substances directed against the symptoms of the disease, but uses substances which, in high doses, cause similar symptoms in healthy humans as the diseases against which they are used. Ultimately, the result is that, as a rule, it is also the belief and the thoughts and feelings of the person, when using homeopathic remedies and Bach flower therapy, that lead to healing success. And it is a fact that active ingredients that are already present in lower dilutions do not bring any real healing effect, nor do those that are very highly diluted.
Well, on top of all this, I have one more question I would like to ask you. We once spoke of the fact that the signal effect in homeopathy is of a different kind than the one you mentioned in your statement. If I remember correctly, then you said that the attitude of a person and his or her thoughts and feelings, as well as the psyche and consciousness, and thus the entire mental block, also play a very important role. However, this is only the case if there are only very high, dense dilutions of the homeopathic remedies. That is to say, only if there are no more active substances in the signal carrier fluid, which is the case after only a few dilution processes. What can you say to this? Unfortunately, we discussed this outside of an official conversation, which is why nothing is written about it. I would also like to say that I have tried various homeopathic remedies over weeks and months, but they have not helped me in any wise against my ailments or diseases. Only when I got the pure active substances and applied them did an improvement and healing take place, for example with an arnica substance, etc.
You do not get involved in imaginings and in beliefs, which is why no effect could be achieved. The signaling effect you mentioned regarding homeopathic remedies in relation to human beings is based, as you correctly said, on the mental swinging waves, energies, and powers, whereby these basically arise from the thoughts, feelings, and psyche, as well as from the consciousness, whereby the whole is called the mental block. Basically, these energies and powers are based on imaginings and on beliefs. The mental swinging waves reflect and embody, through the thoughts, feelings, the psyche, and the consciousness, their energies and powers, which are controlled in relation to homeopathic remedies in such a wise that they produce positive and thus soothing or healing effects with regard to suffering and illness. This use of the mental swinging waves, as well as their energies and powers, works in a similar wise as the healing of consciousness, which is erroneously and misunderstandingly called spiritual healing, which does not exist in reality. The process of consciousness healing is based on a telepathic suggestive emission of mental swinging waves, energies and powers, which cause the recipient to unknowingly develop strongly self-suggestive mental swinging waves, energies, and powers, through which a self-healing is brought about. This means that no person capable of healing consciousness is able to relieve another person's suffering or heal another person's illness through their own energies and powers. A person capable of healing consciousness is only able to send out telepathic suggestive mental swinging waves, energies and powers to certain humans, also to animals or plants, whereby mental swinging waves, energies and powers are triggered by a very strong unconscious self-suggestion through which a self-healing is brought about. The process of the aforementioned further signaling effect of homeopathy is now based on the fact that the person to whom the homeopathic remedies are administered unconsciously suggestively stimulates his or her mental block to produce a comprehensive mental swinging wave with its energies and powers, whereby in this case self-healing is also triggered and realized. Such effects can also be induced at a distance in relation to a healing of consciousness if the person capable of doing so can actually use his or her mental block or its swinging waves, energies, and powers in this form. This is in complete contrast to the application of homeopathic remedies, where direct, acute self-suggestion leads to self-healing. If the homeopathic remedy contains no active substances, but only active substance signals that truly only have an effect through belief-based means. And because the active ingredient signals are retained even when an active ingredient is diluted millions of times, it is said that the healing effect is based on a signal effect. But this must be understood in the sense that it is not the signals of the homeopathic remedy itself that bring about relief or healing, but that they only have a mediating function or a belief function to the mental block, which then begins to work suggestively in such a wise that very strong mental swinging waves, energies, and powers are generated through which self-healing ultimately takes place. Homeopathic medicines, it must be said again, are only of effective remedial use as active substance remedies if there is only a slight dilution, just as long as the active substances are still present in a larger verifiable quantity. With the number of dilutions, the active ingredients dwindle and therefore become weaker and more useless, whereby in the end only the signal effect remains, which I have already explained in its effect. The uselessness of homeopathic remedies already starts with a low dilution, because basically only the pure active substance is useful and soothing or healing in a comprehensive wise.
Aha! Then I succumbed to a misunderstanding, because I was of the opinion that the signals of a homeopathic remedy would itself bring about relief or healing. In reality, if I have now correctly understood that the signal effect, even if it is billions of times strong, only has an indirect effect on the mental block and thus on the alleviation or healing process, but is in no way capable of producing a direct effect. Do I understand that, my son?
You got that right, Dad. Ha ha ha.
Aha. It is based on the principle of how you treat me.
Yes, that is what I mean.
Then I would like to ask you something about smoking. If I understood you correctly lately, well over hundreds of thousands of humans worldwide die as a direct result of smoking, while at the same time more than half of that number die from passive smoking. Is that correct? And what data is available on this for Switzerland? Do you know something about it?
You heard me right. The ratio of 100% smokers to passive smokers is 53.06% on average.
So 100 smokers dead equals 53.06 non-smokers dead. But what is the result in Switzerland?
The annual number of both groups varies, but it can be said that during 1 year in Switzerland, slightly more than 8,000 humans die as direct smokers, while more than 4,000 humans die as passive smokers.
In total, more than 12,000 humans a year. And on top of that, the government is reaching out its hand in complete idiocy, earning many millions more from all those who die from direct or indirect smoking. Paradoxically, the Swiss Confederation spends many millions of francs annually on elaborate anti-smoking campaigns in order to criminally promote tobacco cultivation with taxpayers' money and horrendous subsidies. But that's not all. Criminally, the state also supports the tobacco industry and smoking among the population. Then the state also taxes the products of the tobacco industry, the tobacco products, again, which earns the federal government millions upon millions. But that is not enough, because to top it all off, there is also the hammer of the fact that the buyers of tobacco products are still being ripped off with VAT, which in turn earns the federal government hundreds of millions or even billions. This is the way the government does business, not only here in Switzerland, but everywhere in the world. The population is cheated by the state and ripped off with taxes and other levies and sucked to the blood. But this is still not the end of the sad song, because in the end the governments drive their states into mountains of debt that amount to hundreds of billions or even trillions. Governments are completely incapable of managing a debt-free budget and, on the other hand, they are so irresponsible in this regard, as in other relationships, that they do not give a damn about anything that will become of the state and the humans in the future. All that matters to them is their big mouth, horrendous pay and asset scaling, which enables them to live a life of joy and glory, while the ordinary citizen who finances everything with horrendous taxes is consigned to indifference and can die miserably if he or she can no longer work or has become old and weak.
Unfortunately, I can only confirm this. for in general all governments on Earth, with very few exceptions, are occupied by irresponsible incompetents who indulge only in their selfishness and their own good, while the humans and the whole state, of which they should be the representatives, are disregarded and driven into misery and ruin by these unfit, self-important, and irresponsible humans.
A true word.
These are really very unpleasant things. But in contrast to this, there are also very pleasant things happening in the wide world. But these do not come from governments and authorities, but from humans from the population, who strive for human progress and achieve good successes, and who do not make a fuss about their good deeds.
The honest ones who strive to live by the laws and the recommendations of the creation.
Yes, I wanted to say that. But there are other pleasant things that are happening, also among the core group members. So I have been observing for quite some time now how Jacobus has changed very positively through Selena's presence. For a long time now, since he has been taking care of the child every day and doing something with her, there has been a change in his behavior and interaction, that it is indeed a joy. When his earlier failures are considered, which often escalated, there is no comparison to this. It is only to be hoped that his transformation will continue and that everything will remain within the current framework, whereby he will really reach the goal of his destiny and yet still become the man he has determined himself to be. Indeed, he is well on the way to achieving this, and that is extremely gratifying and worthy of thanks to him. Let us hope that he now really continues his way in this regard and does not lose sight of his destiny, for it is his real destiny in relation to himself, which he now seems to have finally recognized and fulfilled through Selena. Let us hope, however, that it not only seems so, but that it is final reality, with which then his series of having gotten very badly out of control of his good human nature and self-destructions and self-disadvantages will finally be over.
Actually, what you are saying, Ava and I noticed some time ago, which we are both very happy about, as well as others who have observed everything. It is really no longer a comparison to before. Let us just hope that there will not be too many relapses, preferably none at all. And as you say, his transformation is really worthy of thanks, also on behalf of the entire core group community. Let us hit some wood and say good luck.
My thanks also goes to Jacobus. Well, something else pleasant happened in the last days and nights as well, as Florina and Enjana told me, who moved around the center on various occasions during the day. They also observed that around the main building and in the trees and bushes in the house tree garden, many songbird species feel comfortable and have built their nests, where they do their breeding business and raise their young. Among them are also various species of migratory birds, which can only rarely be observed in Switzerland. They have also observed roe deer, foxes, martens, badgers, dormice, and a trusty hare, some of which can reach as far as the house. They have also observed 4 squirrels, which you fed at the house, and which have become quite trusting. In this regard, Florina and Enjana have on several occasions observed how you fed these small animals by tapping the floor with nuts and holding a nut in your hand, where the squirrels took it away. Other center residents could do the same, as well as 2 children who were in the center. Florina and Enjana have captured on devices these events and your bird and animal life, which we do not have on Era, and which we will show to our humans via the remote viewing systems. It will be a joy and surprise to our humans to see what a little paradise the Sim-Ya-Se Silver Star Center really is. Not only in terms of the whole environment, but also in terms of the bird and animal life. Also different lizards, beetles, butterflies and honeysuckers, also pigeontails, but also a lot of insects and beautiful night revelers, like moths, etc., 2 owls, several bats, an eagle owl and a normal one, as well as a barn owl, together with different day birds of prey, like buzzards, falcons, sparrowhawks, hawks, and kites, which are unknown in their earthly forms here on Era, have been captured by Florina and Enjana on their devices.
I did not know that. But it is a pleasure to hear you say that. And I think I can say that our center is really a little paradise. You can say that out loud.
A paradise that was created through your initiative, especially through your handiwork. But you had many helpful hands through the core group members. But the main credit goes to you.
Please, not again. In fact, everyone worked together. I was just the bellwether, and was lucky enough to be able to do various trades that were important for the development of the center.
Handicraft skills, but you learned them on your own initiative.
That is enough, my friend. Let us talk about something else, please.
If you have no more questions, then we can still go outside and walk around a bit where we can talk. Afterwards, we can play a game of chess together.
Gladly, my friend. Then I do not have to stretch my feet alone, which I usually do every night by myself when I get some fresh air and walk around the center grounds. So let us go.